My name's Eric, I'm 31, and I've always been the fixer in my family. You know the type. Quiet, reliable, never the loudest in the room, but somehow always the one expected to clean up the mess. I work in finance, which apparently means I'm made of money. At least, that's the impression my family has clung to for the last 5 years. Ever since I landed a good job out of grad school and started pulling in bonuses bigger than what my dad used to earn in a year, things changed. Not with me, with them. Suddenly, every get-together came with a question. Eric, do you mind covering this? Eric, we were thinking of renovating the kitchen. Just a little help? Or my personal favorite, you're single and childless. What do you even spend your money on? I used to laugh that stuff off. At first, it felt like helping, like I was taking care of the people who raised me. But then it became routine. Entitlement disguised as tradition. Guilt wrapped in family values. My mom was the master of it. She could make "you owe us" sound like a compliment. So when I got the call for just dinner, Eric, just us, I didn't think twice. It was a Thursday, and I'd just landed a $9,800 bonus from closing a major account. I hadn't even told anyone about it. I figured maybe my mom wanted to talk, or maybe my sister needed help with the baby stuff. She was 5 months along, and things had been tight for her and her husband, Mark. I didn't mind. They were family. That word used to mean something. The moment I pulled into the driveway, I knew something was off. Cars lined the street like it was a block party. My sister's front lawn had balloon arches, silver streamers, and in the middle of the porch, a massive white and pink banner that read, "Congrats on baby Emily." My heart dropped. I sat in the car for a second, engine still running, and stared at it. Baby Emily. No one had told me the name yet. No one had mentioned a baby shower. And definitely no one said anything about 76 people showing up for just dinner. I got out of the car slowly. I wasn't angry, not yet. Just confused. Tired. A sinking sort of tired that creeps in when you realize you've been left out of the planning, again, but expected to foot the bill. My sister, Claire, came bouncing down the steps, hands outstretched like a Hallmark card. Surprise. Isn't it beautiful? Behind her, I could see people clinking glasses. I recognized neighbors, some cousins I hadn't seen in years, even the woman from the Pilates studio my mom dragged me to once. It wasn't just a party. It was a production. Mom said it was just dinner, I murmured. Claire laughed. Yeah, well, we figured you'd find out eventually. This just felt more festive. Before I could respond, Mom appeared behind her, cheeks flushed, holding a tray of mini quiches like she was starring in a cooking show. Eric, there you are? Doesn't it look wonderful? And oh, thank you so much, sweetheart. We used your bonus. It was for the family anyway. I blinked. What? I asked low and slow. Mom didn't miss a beat. Your account. The joint one. It was just sitting there. You said you opened it for family stuff, remember? And when the bonus landed, I figured, well, what better way to celebrate little Emily? I hadn't even processed how she knew about the bonus. I hadn't told anyone. Not yet. But she'd somehow gotten access. Or maybe never lost it. That account was something I set up years ago when Dad was recovering from surgery and they needed help paying the bills. I'd forgotten it even existed. I hadn't touched it in almost a year. $9,800. Gone. Used for balloons, hors d'oeuvres, and a cake shaped like a pacifier. I didn't say anything. Not then. I just smiled. A small, tight smile, the kind people wear in courtrooms and family portraits. I stepped inside, greeted the guests, even held a couple of gift bags. I gave Claire a hug. She smelled like vanilla and manipulation. Then I sat down in the corner with a drink and watched my name vanish from every conversation. No one mentioned me again. Not for the rest of the night. I left early, around 9:30, claiming a meeting the next morning. My mom gave me a kiss on the cheek and whispered, "This meant so much to Claire. You did good." I nodded. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor of my apartment with my laptop open, just staring at the login screen of the old joint account. I'd changed the passwords years ago, or so I thought. Turns out I'd missed one. She'd used an old access code tied to our family phone plan, something I hadn't updated since 2021. My fault, but not for long. I locked down every digital trail, froze all linked accounts, reversed the 12 most recent transfers, 8 of which had SHWR in the memo line. I submitted a fraud report. Then, I opened the deed file, the one they never remembered I still had access to. Because 2 years ago, When I helped them refinance the house, they made me co-owner just in case. It was temporary, a formality, just until Dad recovered. They forgot to remove my name. So I did what any moody, single uncle would do at midnight on a Thursday. I contacted my lawyer. And by sunrise, something about the deed had changed. At first, it was quiet. Then my phone buzzed. One call, then 5, then 30. By 7:15 a.m., the notifications stacked like dominoes. I didn't answer any of them. I made coffee, ate toast, watched the news. The first voicemail that made me pause came from my sister. Eric, what's going on? Mom's freaking out. She said you froze the accounts and something's wrong with the house. Please call me. I didn't know she used your bonus, I swear. Then Mom's voice. Sharper. Eric, this is not okay. Whatever you did, undo it. You're being selfish. This was for your niece. And finally, Dad. Calm. Nervous. Tired. Son, I think we need to talk. I don't know what your mother told you, but let's sit down, okay? We can fix this. But they weren't calling to fix anything. They were calling because the mortgage payment had bounced, because the utilities were no longer on autopay, because their just dinner had turned into a legal mess they didn't see coming. And that was before I logged into the family group chat and saw the most pathetic display of damage control I'd ever witnessed. The chat was exploding with a chaotic mix of confusion, backpedaling, and performative concern. Claire had posted, "Hey everyone, tiny hiccup with the house stuff, but nothing to worry about. We're resolving it. Thanks for all the love yesterday." Right underneath, Mom chimed in, "If anyone gets weird calls from the bank, just ignore them. It's all a misunderstanding. Family first." I didn't reply. I just watched. People started asking questions. Aunt Marie was the first to poke holes. "Wait, what happened? I thought you owned the house." Then came Uncle Ray, who never liked Mark. "So who's responsible for the mortgage now? That was in Eric's name too, right?" And finally, someone dropped the hammer. "My cousin Lauren, a paralegal. If Eric's name is still on the deed, and you used his money without consent, that's not a hiccup. That's fraud." Silence followed. It was surreal. Like watching a building collapse from the outside. You're not in it, but you feel the tremor. I think that was the moment Mom realized I wasn't going to roll over this time, that I'd stopped being their personal safety net. By noon, the calls had slowed but not stopped. They tried every tactic. Claire sent a photo of the baby bump with "she already loves her Uncle Eric." Mark texted me something about bro code and "let's not let the ladies ruin our bond." My dad offered to meet privately, just the guys, as if he hadn't stood silently for years while Mom managed the puppets. But the real cherry on top came from Mom 3 minutes before I left for work. "You're hurting the family, Eric." All over a party. I stared at that message, reread it twice, then typed back, slowly, deliberately. "You stole from me. You used me. And now you're mad that I stopped letting you." Then I blocked her. That evening, I met with my lawyer again. We had coffee in his office as I laid out every detail. The unauthorized access, the transfer trail, the text messages, the joint deed. I thought maybe I was being too harsh, that maybe I'd regret this. But then he looked at me and said something I won't forget. "They didn't ask for help. They decided you owed it. That's not family. That's entitlement," with a smile. We filed the paperwork that night. Meanwhile, the fallout continued. Mark apparently got into it with Claire after finding out she knew about the bonus beforehand. She tried to spin it, said she was just trying to give Mom something special, that she thought I wouldn't mind. He wasn't buying it. My cousin told me Mark stormed out during brunch and hadn't been home in 2 days. I didn't feel sorry for either of them. They made their choices. The best part? A week later, I got a certified letter addressed to me, hand-signed by my mother. It was almost laughable in its desperation. She'd written out a full-page monologue about how family means sacrifice, how she was just trying to bring everyone together, and how I was breaking this family apart for no good reason. But the kicker? She closed it with, "You're not too old to be grounded, Eric." Grounded? I'm 31. I almost framed it. Instead, I scanned it, attached it to the fraud report, and archived the original. By the time the second mortgage payment failed, the bank had already flagged the account. Since I now legally controlled half the deed, and my name was on all the financial rescue documents from 2 years ago, their refinance was about to hit a very painful snag. Mom tried going around me by asking Dad to reapply for assistance on his own. Unfortunately for them, His credit history isn't quite what it used to be. 3 days after that, I received a voicemail from their realtor. Hi, Eric. We're having an issue with the sale process. The title office flagged your name on the deed, and we can't move forward without your authorization. Could you please give us a call as soon as possible? It's, urgent. I didn't call back, because by then, the family had already started turning on each other. My aunt messaged me privately, asking what really happened. When I told her, when I laid it all out in a voice memo with no emotion, just facts, she paused for a full day before responding. Then she wrote, "They always said you were too quiet. I think they forgot quiet doesn't mean weak." Word started spreading in the extended family. About the bonus. About the account. About the house. Suddenly, people weren't so quick to take sides. The sympathy train for Claire and Mom derailed. Apparently, when you steal almost 10 grand from your son and try to hide it behind pink balloons, even the nosiest aunts raise their eyebrows. Meanwhile, I got a notification from my bank. One of the reverse transfers, the catering bill, had been charged back successfully. I didn't even smile. I just closed the tab and went back to work. It's funny. I always thought revenge would feel fiery, explosive, loud. But the quiet ones? We don't need fireworks. Just facts. And silence. Because sometimes the most satisfying revenge doesn't come from shouting your side. It comes from watching the people who used to smile while taking advantage of you suddenly realize you were the one holding the umbrella the whole time. And now, they're stuck in the storm. But you're already dry. After I blocked Mom, Claire, and Mark, I didn't expect peace. But I didn't expect them to unravel this fast either. They'd built a dynamic where I was always the one who came around eventually. The one who apologized even when I didn't do anything wrong. The one who, when shamed, would bend. But this time, I wasn't responding. And that silence? It was driving them insane. Claire went first. She sent me a handwritten letter because apparently, when texts and DMs fail, people revert to cursive desperation. I didn't open it right away. It sat on my kitchen counter for 2 days, unopened, beside a used coffee mug and a stack of utility bills. I stared at it the way you'd stare at a letter from a company that already charged your card. What was the point? But late one night, when sleep wouldn't come, I opened it. It started the way I expected. "Eric, I love you, and I'm sorry things got so out of hand." But the rest, that was the real kicker. She admitted to knowing about the bonus before the party. She said Mom saw the deposit notification pop up on the shared phone plan account, that she brought it up casually during one of their baby prep brunches, and the two of them planned the party around it, believing that it wouldn't be a big deal. Claire said she felt pressured to agree and that she didn't want to start drama by defending me. The part that actually stung? You know how Mom gets. I just didn't want to make things worse. That sentence hit harder than I thought it would. Because she was right, I didn't know how Mom got. Manipulative. Convincing. And when she didn't get her way, cruel in the most calculated ways possible. But Claire had always been the golden child. The baby. She never had to resist. That was my role, to absorb, to fix, to protect. And now, she was blaming her cowardice on my history of compliance. I didn't respond to the letter, but I took a picture of it and added it to the digital folder I'd been building, a little archive labeled, in case they try something. Because that was the next thing I realized. They weren't just trying to win me back. They were trying to prepare for damage control. I found out from my cousin Lauren, the paralegal, that Mom had started reaching out to certain relatives with her version of the story, that I was going through something, that I was lashing out over the family growing and not being the center of attention anymore. The implication? That I was jealous, that I'd become bitter because I was unmarried, childless, and used to being the successful one. I couldn't believe it. After everything I'd given, the bills I'd covered, the sacrifices I'd made, now I was being painted as insecure? A jealous, lonely brother throwing tantrums because people were having babies without him? It would have been hilarious if it wasn't so insulting. Lauren offered to set the record straight. I told her not yet. Let them dig. Let them scramble to patch a ship that was already halfway underwater. What they didn't know was that the mortgage company had already contacted me to inform me of a pending foreclosure warning. Not because I wanted them to lose the house, but because the payments I'd stopped making had never been replaced. Mom and Dad had missed 2 consecutive payments by then, and since my name was still on the deed, I got every notification. I knew they'd try to call the bank and beg for more time. I also knew their refinancing plan had been blocked, thanks to my lawyer sending an affidavit confirming I wouldn't authorize any new financial activity tied to the property until we had a full legal review. They were stuck, and worse, they were now being watched. Meanwhile, I started getting calls from unknown numbers, not just blocked or private, but small-town area codes I didn't recognize. I answered one out of curiosity, and sure enough, it was one of Mom's friends from church. Eric? Sweetheart. It's Janine from the ladies' group. Your mother's been very upset, and we all just want to make sure you're okay. She says she hasn't heard from you, and well, she's devastated. I paused. Then I asked, did she mention the $9,800 she took from my account to throw a party I wasn't told about? Dead silence. Did she mention that I'm still legally tied to a house she's trying to sell without my permission? More silence. Then I think I've called at a bad time. I said, no, I think you just called with bad information, and hung up. After that, I stopped answering unknown numbers altogether. But the damage was already spreading. Only this time, not to me. Word got around that I wasn't responding to the guilt campaign, that I was, in fact, holding my ground. And suddenly, people stopped jumping to defend Claire and Mom without asking questions first. A few even messaged me privately, saying things like, I didn't realize how bad it had gotten, or I thought you were just quiet, not carrying everything. It was weird. I wasn't used to sympathy, not from family, especially not for not giving in. Meanwhile, back at the house, things started falling apart. Claire had a second baby shower planned, a smaller one this time, supposedly just for her friends. But the vendor emails began bouncing back. The venue she'd booked canceled without explanation, and the food service she tried to hire refused to process the deposit. Why? Because all of it had been routed through the same shared payment system tied to the old joint family account, the one I'd frozen, the one that flagged any new transaction for manual review. Every time they tried to spend, the system locked them out. By the third week, Mom sent me one last message, not directly, but through a cousin. I just want him to remember who raised him, and to ask whether that's really worth destroying. That sentence rolled around in my head for hours. Destroying what? A fake sense of unity? A house built on lies? A system where I paid, and they praised each other? No. What I was destroying wasn't family. It was a throne they'd built on my back, and gotten angry when I stood up. And by now, the cracks were showing on every side. I'd heard that Dad had started sleeping in the den again, not because of me, but because he was done. Apparently, he told my aunt that he was tired of being blamed for things he never touched. That Mom had gone too far this time. That Claire should have stepped in. The family group chat had gone silent. The baby shower photos that did exist looked off. Awkward smiles. Forced poses. Mark standing 6 inches away from Claire like someone photoshopped them together. But the best part? The house was now officially flagged in the real estate system. Any sale would require my signature, and I wasn't in a generous mood. And still, through all of this, I hadn't said a word publicly. Not one post. Not one speech. Just silence. And the occasional push of a button. The final domino fell 2 weeks later. It came in the form of a printed letter from the bank, slipped into a crisp white envelope and hand-delivered to my apartment. It was the formal foreclosure notice. The house was now in default. 3 missed payments, 0 communication from the other listed owner, Mom, and multiple rejected attempts at refinancing. The letter laid out the timeline. If the account wasn't brought current by the end of the month, the property would be repossessed and placed into public auction. I stared at it for a full minute before I even moved. Not because I was shocked, but because it was finally real. After years of being used, guilt-tripped, and manipulated, the house they once called the family home was now legally on the brink. And there was only one way to stop it. They'd have to come to me. And they did. First, it was Dad. He asked to meet. Just us. No Mom, no Claire. We met at a diner near my place, the same one he used to take me to after Little League games. He looked 10 years older. Tired. Shoulders hunched. Eyes dull. He didn't touch his coffee. He didn't apologize either. But he did speak honestly for once. I should have said something earlier. About all of it. Your mother, she's always had her way. I got used to letting her run things. And I let her run you over too. I didn't respond. I waited. She thought you'd come around, like always. And Claire, she was just afraid to rock the boat. But you? You were the only one who ever paid attention. You were the reason we stayed afloat the last few years." Then he looked me in the eye, and I think she resented that. It hit me harder than I thought it would. Not because I needed validation from him, but because it was the first time someone in my family actually admitted what I'd always felt. That I wasn't crazy. That I hadn't imagined it. Dad asked if I'd consider helping. Not for Mom. Not for Claire. But because if the house went into foreclosure, it would tank his credit too, and he was nearing retirement. I didn't answer right away. I told him I'd think about it. He nodded and didn't press me. The next day, I made a decision. I didn't pay off the house. I didn't bail them out. But I did buy them time. I contacted the bank, explained the situation, and filed paperwork to assume full ownership of the mortgage. I paid the outstanding balance in full, but only under one condition. They had 30 days to vacate. My lawyer drew up the documents. A legal transfer of ownership. Once they signed, the house would be mine, free and clear. No more dual names. No more shared control. And no more pretending that we were still a united family. Mom refused to sign at first. She screamed, cried, threatened, claimed I was trying to steal her legacy, told me I was being cruel, vindictive, that I'd broken her heart. But the real kicker came when she tried to guilt me one last time. "You're really going to put your pregnant sister out on the street?" I looked her dead in the eye. "No. You did that the moment you threw a party with my money and didn't even tell me I was invited." In the end, Claire signed first. Mark was already halfway out the door. Turns out their marriage wasn't doing so hot under financial stress. She didn't even fight it. She just signed, took her copy, and left in silence. Mom eventually caved too, because she had no other option. And on a quiet Friday morning, exactly 30 days after the paperwork was finalized, I pulled into the driveway of the house I now owned. A U-Haul sat parked at the curb. Boxes lined the front porch. Dad stood there, helping the movers, not meeting my eyes. Mom sat on the porch swing, arms crossed, bitterness radiating off her like steam. She didn't say a word when I walked past. But I did. I paused at the door. "Look back. You said I was destroying this family," I said quietly. "But the truth is, I just stopped letting you destroy me." Then I walked inside. The house was mine. Fully. Legally. Emotionally. Not because I took it from them, but because they gave it away, piece by piece. Every time they decided I was only valuable when I stayed quiet and paid up. I renovated the guest room first. Not for visitors, but for me. I set up a desk, a proper workspace, and a shelf full of books I'd never had time to read. The kind of space you build when you stop pouring your energy into people who only take. I didn't invite them to the housewarming, but I did send a picture of the freshly painted living room. Just one. No caption. Claire didn't respond. Mark blocked me. Mom texted, "I hope it was worth it." I didn't reply, because it was. Not just the house, not just the money, but the peace. The freedom of no longer being their fallback plan. Their walking ATM. Their silent scapegoat. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was just done. And sometimes, being done, that's the best revenge of all.